We need to talk about what's going on in the digital amp modeler space. I feel like there hasn't been much progress in the past few years, and whether that has to do with supply chain issues or a global pandemic, the space has been pretty cold for a while. But good googly moogly is that about to change with this new release from 𝗦𝗍 Multimedia, and over the course of this video, I hope to illustrate how this little box has the potential to completely change the digital modeling landscape. What's up everyone, my name is Taylor, welcome to the channel, glad to have you here. What I'm holding in my hand is, in my opinion, one of the coolest pieces of gear to be released in the digital amp modeling space in the last couple years. And for transparency, 𝗦𝗍 Multimedia did sponsor this video, but if I'm being honest with you, I probably would have done it for free. Wait a second. This is the TONEX pedal from 𝗦𝗍 Multimedia. It is a companion piece of hardware to the TONEX app that myself and many others have been praising recently for giving users the ability to authentically model amplifiers and cabinets and overdrive, boost, fuzz, and EQ pedals. It is a 3-switch stomp box type floor modeler, which has a similar form factor to something like the 𝗦𝗍𝗘 Stomp, only a little bit larger, but it is completely different in its functionality and its operation. The TONEX pedal allows you to sample your analog gear digitally with the TONEX app and use them with the pedal on a pedal board or in the loop of an amp, or even using the unit as its own audio interface, and it fits perfectly with the 𝗦𝗍 Multimedia ecosystem. You have the TONEX app, which you can use as a plugin to create tone models of your gear, as well as download other tone models via the ToneNet. You have the mobile app and the iRig audio interface if you want to play your tone models on the go with some headphones, and then This fills the gap for musicians who are looking for a piece of hardware that they can gig with. It's meant to be used modularly, meaning in conjunction with other pedals on your pedal board or wherever your pedals find themselves existing. It doesn't have much in the way of built-in effects and isn't necessarily an all-in-one multi-effect unit, but what it does very well, and that's recreating analog amplifier tones. And as I mentioned previously, it fits in really well with 𝗦𝗍's other products, not only filling a gap in their offering, but just in terms of putting it on a pedal board with something like their X-Gear delay pedal. I mean, look, they're made for each other. As an audio interface, it has an ultra-low noise floor, 24-bit 192 kHz converters, and 123 decibels of dynamic range. We also have MIDI control with this pedal and an external control jack, stereo 1/4-inch outputs, and a 1/4-inch headphone output. It comes with 480 premium factory tone models, and of course the big deal, the ability to load your own tone models that you've created, as well as ones that you've downloaded with the TONEX app. Now, if you don't have TONEX or Amplitude, their guitar suite, no need to worry. They're including both with the pedal. And what are they charging for all of this? $3.99. To me, this is just an insane value, and I know that a lot of us amp modeling enthusiasts have sort of been waiting for a company to come along and offer something like this at an affordable price. I look at it like this. It's always been the case, for me at least, that I have my plugins that I enjoy for recording and mixing, I have my patches that I use for playing live via the Axe effects, and then I have my digital recreations of my analog gear on the Quad Cortex. But that can be kind of messy. Wouldn't it be better if you could have all of those in one ecosystem and be able to take your tone with you no matter where you are performing or where your music is being recorded and mixed? That's what 𝗦𝗍 Multimedia is striving to achieve here, and I'm just really excited to be able to share this with you. So what I want to do here in this video is show you how this works at the computer in conjunction with the TONEX app, and then I want to plug it into a cabinet with an amp and A/B them, and then at the end of the video I want to shoot this out against a real amplifier in a mix, because that's what we do here. So with all of that out of the way, let's get to it. What's up guys, I have the TONEX app loaded up here. I'm gonna show you some of the functionality with the TONEX pedal. We're gonna capture this 𝗦𝗍𝗘 MK2, put it on the TONEX pedal. So first thing you're gonna notice when you load up the TONEX app is there's a lot of amps. And this is going to be mirrored in the pedal. So you have your noise gate, you have a post compressor. The post compressor is really nice if you want to add some of that like tube compression into your signal. It's just a really nice subtle way to get some more feel, for lack of a better word, out of the tone models. You have your amp block, obviously, that's the main point of what we're doing here. You have your cab, you can bypass your cab if you're gonna play it through an actual cab, like I will show you later here. And then you have a reverb block, and then if you click here on the advanced parameters, and again, this can be mirrored to the pedal, we'll go over that here in a few minutes, you have your bass frequency, your mid frequency, your mid Q, your treble frequency, presence, depth, and mix. Just a lot of options for really sculpting your tone. So we're in the player mode right now, and this is really useful if you're using the application as like a plugin on a guitar DI or something like that, if you're mixing with it. Let's go over to the modeler tab, and this is where we're gonna open up the menu to make a tone model here. And they're really good about guiding you through this whole process here. So you decide what instrument you want. We are going to do a guitar. Next, you need to tell it what your configuration is. We're just doing an amp, but if you had an amp and a stomp, for example, or you're doing a whole rig or an amp and a cab, or just a stomp, something like that, you just need to select that here. Next, it is going to bring up this menu, and you're going to have to configure exactly how you have your amplifier hooked up to your audio interface. Let me show you how I'm doing that real quick here. So I'm running out of my audio interface into the input on this TONEX capture box. Now, you do not need one of these to use this application, but they sell this separately, and it just helps you get a cleaner capture. It's sort of like a reamp box if you want to think about it that way. So we're going into the TONEX capture, we're going out of the TONEX capture, into the front of the amplifier, out of the power section of the amplifier, and into the front of the TONEX capture box. Now, this is not a load box. This will pass through power though. So we are passing the power out into the input here of this 2Notes torpedo, and then I'm actually going out of the 2Notes torpedo into my cabinet down there just for monitoring, and the other output here is going back into my audio interface. So that's how we have everything hooked up, and now we just need to tell the app that. All right, so now that we have all that filled in, we're gonna hit next. It's gonna ask us to plug in an instrument. I need an instrument. And you can see when I hit really hard there, it says it's correct. So we're gonna be good on that. We're gonna go here and we're gonna check our return levels. Now, one of the cool things about this is you actually have this live input section, or you can go here and you can select a guitar riff, so that way your hands can be free while you do this. Let's do a dirt riff. And we need to adjust our mic input gain here, so that's what I'm gonna do. And then now we can start the capture process. I don't want to listen to this through my cabinet, so I'm going to unplug my cabinet real quick. And we're going to listen to it make a bunch of lovely noises. And then I'm going to speed this part up so you don't have to watch it. Okay, now that's done. That part didn't take too long. On the next screen, the training screen, you have three options. You can do it fast, you can do the default option, or you can do advanced. Advanced takes quite a bit of time. And I'm sure this depends on your computer. I'm using an iMac with an M1 chip, and I think using the advanced mode took just a little bit over an hour, maybe like an hour and 10 minutes. But we want the best results, right? So we're gonna hit advanced. And I'm gonna turn these cameras off because I'm gonna run out of SD card space if you sit here through this whole thing. So let's go ahead and do that and hit next. And then it's going to ask you if you're sure you want to take forever to do this. So we're gonna go ahead and hit start advanced training. We'll come back when it's done. Note the time now, it is 4:47. We will come back when this is done. Okay, so like I said earlier, it took a little bit over an hour, and I'm using a little bit very liberally here. We're gonna click next, and then just confirm our setup. We still have the same setup here. And then we can actually listen to this versus the real rig. Now, one thing that I would really love here, and this kind of applies to everything with like amp modeling, capturing technology, is the ability to load an IR or something up, so that way you're not just listening to the preamp sound. This is probably my favorite part of the whole process. Is where you actually get to pick out the skin for your amp model in the TONEX app. And you can see that we have some highly influenced skins here. I'm gonna pick the one that looks most like the amp that I'm modeling. It's this guy right here. Although they don't have the black version. Maybe they'll have the black version of this in the update. And let's save and go to the player. So now the capture that we have is actually loaded up in the app. Now the next thing we're gonna wanna do here, we're gonna go to the librarian. So basically we have our tone models down here. So like if we wanted this one, for example, what we do is we drag this into whatever bank we want it. And let's just put it in bank 1B. And you're gonna ask overwrite, and then it's gonna sync with the TONEX pedal, and now that model is loaded up in the TONEX pedal. Also, you can upload the models that you captured to the TONET, so if you want to check out this model that I just captured, you can go on the TONET and find it. Let's plug this guy in and see how it compares to the amp that we just captured in the pedal. All right, we're plugged into this configuration of things here. I'm using the 𝗦𝗣𝗘𝗏𝗧 right now. I'm just doing this as a benchmark so we have something to compare the TONEX pedal to. We will shoot them out in a mix here in just a minute, but here's what this sounds like now. And just for reference, we'll turn on this TS9. I just wanted to get the TS9 out to test it in front of the TONEX pedal, but we'll check it out here on the 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗧 as well, why not? An unnecessary amount of gain and tightness for this amp, but it sounds really good. All right, so now that we have that baseline established, let's hook up the TONEX pedal and we'll see how the tone model compares to the actual amp with the same cabinet. Okay, I have the TONEX pedal plugged in and I'm running this into a solid state power amp. The reason being, when I captured this amplifier, I captured it with the power tube section, so I don't want to run this through the loop and get the power tube emulation plus the actual power tubes. So I chose to go with a clean solid state power amp that has a higher power pedal from my buddy Shay at This Heavy Earth Effects. We have a licked Larum noise gate in the front and a TS9. We will engage that here in a second. This is just what the capture sounds like on its own. I'm curious to see what it sounds like when I'm editing the video, but just sitting in the room next to the cabinet, it sounds really, really close. Now, there are a couple things that would really enhance this experience for me so far with the TONEX pedal. One would be a power button, and if you watch my channel, you probably know how I feel about power buttons already, but I just would like a power switch on this guy. That would just be a little bit nicer. The other thing would be a master volume control, and the reason for that is if you are running this into a solid state power amp, the way you generally run a solid state power amp, or the way I do, the philosophy that I go by, is you want your solid state power amp's volume to be pretty much all the way up, and then you control the volume with whatever you are running into it. And then of course the downside of that being, if you have to adjust your level, you're gonna have to adjust that for all of the presets that you use. So, you know, it would just be nice to have a master volume knob on here. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do here, we're gonna click this model button, and you can see the amp model blinking, and that will allow us to switch between different amp model types. We're gonna stick with 𝗦𝗡𝗏𝗧𝗏 though, that's what we're doing. And then if you click it again, you'll see the amp and the cab options here. You can scroll between amp and cab. If we went into cab, right now it's empty on this model because I did not capture it with a cab. But you have the VIR option. I think these VIRs do sound really, really good. So I'm gonna assign that to this preset, even though you can't hear it right now. The cab simulation is still off, and I'll show you why. If you hold down this button, you will actually get into your setup menu. So the preset setups and global setups. Preset setup, you can change your external control. You have amp options here. So you have your amp active or bypass. We want that active. You have your cab, active or bypass. We have this bypassed in the global settings, so we can leave it active in the preset settings. We go back to global settings. You have your naming conventions. Here's your global cab control. So you can see we have it bypassed right now. If we had it on, it sounds weird because I have a cabinet running through a cabinet. And this is a very important setting if you want your TONEX pedal to mirror the behavior of the app. You need to go into, whoops, I lost it. You need to go into global and then go to user mode and set it to advanced. What advanced will do is the same thing that it does in the app when you click advanced settings. It just gives you a lot more controls over your tone stack. So you have like center frequencies and cues and things like that. We'll get into that here in a second. Operation, you can change it to live mode or as an interface. There's just a bunch of options in here, and I really suggest going through these and making sure it is set up to your use case. So we have the parameter controls here, and when you hold this button down, you see this alt light come on. What that will do is it will change the parameters from the name that is on the top to the name that is on the bottom. So let's go through the basic controls first. You have your gain. And then we can adjust our bass, middle, and treble. My thought here with the TONEX models is they're very accurate at noon, but if you need to dial them in, maybe you have a different cab or something than you dialed it in with when you did the tone model capture, you know, you can do that here. And then of course we have our volume here at the end. And then we're gonna hold this button down, we're gonna get the alternate mode, and now we can adjust our reverb if we want. If we wanted reverb. I don't want reverb, but it's there if you want it, so that's cool. We have a compressor here, and the way this compressor works is really nice because you could just add like a little bit of that sort of tube compression that you get with a tube amp. Let's just add a little bit in. And then obviously here we have a noise gate, kind of self-explanatory, it's a noise gate. We have our presence control. And our depth control. Like I said, I don't find that I need to adjust these that much, but it's nice that they're there and you can adjust them. Now, if you want to get super crazy with it, we go back over here into parameter, and if you click this button, it will take you through different parameters here. So we have noise gate, the noise gate release, noise gate depth, compressor, compressor gain, compressor attack, compressor patch, bass frequency, mid Q, mid frequency, treble frequency, the EQ patch, the mix, the reverb mode, the reverb time, the reverb pre-delay, the reverb color. And that's why we changed the user mode to advanced earlier, is it unlocks all of these other options. I'm not really gonna get into these too much. They are pretty self-explanatory on what they do, but yeah, I mostly just wanna rip this thing because I think it sounds really good. And of course, once we have it where we like it, we just hold this button down to save. It'll blink, you can change the name if you want. You hit it again, it will load up the bank that you're saving to, and then there you go. Tells you it's saved. Woo! It sounds really, really good, and half the reason that I do these demos this way, you know, with the quick A/B with the real amp, is just so that I have some perspective on what the real thing sounds like. And dude, the TONEX pedal can hang with any other modeler I've ever used and exceeds most of them in its sonic reproduction of the amps it's trying to emulate. I get asked all the time, should I buy this modeler or should I buy this modeler? And usually my answer is something like, well, it depends on what features you want. You really need to look at the user interface on all of them because they all sound pretty good. For most people, I would suggest this modeler over anything else. And I can say that comfortably because it sounds amazing. It is in a really, really competitive price bracket and is affordable by most people. And this is still in beta. At the time of shooting this video, they haven't even released this yet. So it's only gonna get better than this. And it's already really good. Let's turn on this boost pedal and see how it takes a boost. I might have to recant my glowing review if it falls apart with a boost. Nope, it takes a boost really well. Man, it sounds so good. Keep in mind, I'm only demoing one model too. Let's go through here and let's change one of these amps up. Oh, we have some metal zones here. MT2 scooped. Mike S. Overdrive? Was it Soldano maybe? It's kind of cool. Let's use this as a bass and then let's go through and adjust all of our settings. With this setup, I genuinely feel like I'm playing through an actual amplifier in a way that I've only experienced with something like maybe the Axe Effects? Maybe? right, but now the moment of truth, especially if you're looking at this for production. Let's hear what this sounds like in a mix shot out against a real amplifier. After all the analysis, here are my takeaway thoughts with the TONEX pedal. This pedal is really important, and the reason it's such an important release is I think it actually pushes the whole industry forward. While it is not the most robust piece of gear, I think that it is going to set a standard for what we can expect out of similar units. Sure, it is designed to be used modularly in conjunction with other effects pedals, while something like the Quad Cortex is a self-contained unit, but there's also a $1,400 price difference between the two products. That's a lot of cheese. To me, there's really only a couple comparable units out there right now. The first is the Moore Studio app and the GE products. And while this system is a little bit more robust than the TONEX system since it can be used with all the GE multi-effects pedals, the fact that it's only available to iOS users can be kind of prohibitive. The other one would be the Quad Cortex, and I'm gonna leave the Kemper out of this for now since it's an older unit and it's probably in the twilight of its lifespan. While the Quad Cortex is a very sexy and robust piece of gear that does a lot, I just really feel like it's a product that could have used another year or so of development. Oh, and also, it's very cost prohibitive, and if you were just looking at it for its amp modeling and sampling capabilities, this is probably a much better deal. So just with this pedal alone, I already have a wish list for a 2.0 version. It'd be nice to have an effects loop. It would be nice to have a Type-C USB port instead of a Type-A USB port, and it would be nice to have a power switch as well. And if we're being totally honest here, a screen that doesn't look like it belongs on a Casio calculator. All jokes aside, I get why these decisions were made, and I think it was really smart to make something at this price point. I just hope that in the future they release something a little bit more robust for people that would like to spend the extra money to have a more luxury unit. Alright, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. It was my absolute pleasure to review this for you all. I've been looking forward to something like this for a long time, and it just feels really awesome to know that this technology is right around the corner. Special thanks to Chris and the 𝗦𝗘𝗏 Multimedia crew, but more importantly, special thanks to you for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.